Good evening. This is the Police Accountability Board for Prince George's County. This is the meeting of July 12th, 2023. The time is now 6:43. We'll call the meeting to order. I'll take the roll, and if you are in person, let's say present. If you are virtual, just say present virtually. Sheila Bryant,
Present virtually.
Dr. Coleman,
Present.
Mr. James,
Present.
Mr. Jones,
Present.
Mr. Melton,
Present.
Mr. O'Neill,
Present.
Mrs. Ridley,
Present.
Mr. Sanchez,
Present.
Mrs. Springs.
Present virtually.
Thank you. Mr. Vergamini.
Present.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Springs, present, and Kelvin, present. Cool. All right, cool. So we'll go, the agenda. Everybody has an agenda in front of them? Good. Oh, you don't? Oh, no.
Yep, thank you. Do know.
I didn't get you, Carlos.
So, oh, yeah, we might have to email it to them. We have a copy we can email to?
I have the agenda.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, moving on, did everyone get an opportunity to review the minutes? Marvin, please.
I think those minutes are gonna have to be reviewed at the next meeting.
Oh, okay,
Marvin, I have to work out.
so we want to table that?
So just for clarification, so we're waiting on minutes from April, May, and June.
No, it should just be May. And one in June.
Yeah.
I don't think,
The last meeting in June, you should have, all of April.
can we double check on the April 26th meeting minutes?
Yeah.
So I think the last ones were April 12th.
Yeah, and they're done. One of the people is out on vacation, so she couldn't make the update.
I'm just
No,
making
I
sure
just
we're
wanna
tracking
make
which
sure.
meeting minutes.
So you said it was April what?
April 26th.
Okay.
We haven't
Okay.
approved
We know
those,
which
then the
one.
May and the June,
All right, so we'll do
We
that.
know which one.
So we'll
and then
do that.
hopefully July as well.
Okie dokie. You said you know it, right, Mom?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're done.
Oh, okay,
She just-
cool.
She has
Oh, on
been
vacation.
able-
Okay.
She's on vacation for a couple
Cool,
of
so we'll go ahead and table that, and then for the next meeting, we'll have those prepared. Old business, strategic plan updates, Marvin, Joe, you?
As you'll see later in the agenda, we were supposed to do the next section of the strategic plan, but the AHB issue has become critical in the selection, and so the chair and the leadership team has decided to put it on hold, so tonight we can do the AHB.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Case review, data,
I had some data that I wanted to give you for the cases that we have, and the things from, just so that you can see it printed out really tiny. I didn't expect it to print that tiny. So what I'm going to do is send it to you in an email where you can actually view it, but we need to get it all on one page. It comes out real tiny. I don't want anybody to straighten their eyes. But this is these are the cases that we've gotten in. I have the department, the date, the case number, the incident type, what the department recommended, what the ACC, charged, what the ACC found, and whether, if it was a discipline, what category it was on a matrix, and the discipline that was recommended, and if the AC made any recommendations at all. For instance, one of the departments should ensure that the duty to intervene is known and followed by all. If they made any comments or recommendations, I also have a column for that.
didn't you have copies of that?
Mm-hmm.
Would it still be okay if we just took a look at that as
Yeah,
well?
but it's real tiny.
Okay, that's fine.
So it printed out so, everybody or just you?
Yeah, everybody, yeah.
Mine printed.
You have it.
Okay.
Can you see, I think I need to send you a copy.
I
Because I can get a magnifying.
I can,
Thank you.
So will you also send us a copy?
Oh,
I'll also send
oh,
you
yeah, it's not.
a copy, because I noticed that we got in, some new cases since I started this.
Oh,
I had to add those new cases.
It's too small, I can't read it.
It's really tiny.
No, I like this, Denise, thank you.
Yeah.
Look at Dr. Coleman. But,
You got to reading back, go to Dollar Tree.
Yeah, you right about that.
I'm gonna have, I already have
You take your
contact
eye test
in, I
today,
still
you take your
can't-
eye
That's
test
what me and
today.
Carlo just did.
I didn't give it to you for
I'm
discussion.
telling you.
I didn't give it to you for discussion today, but I wanted you all to have it. And what I will do is add the cases that I just saw that we got, and I will send you an electronic copy of this, so you don't have to strain your eyes 2 days
I know.
trying to see.
I'll pick that.
Yeah.
So that's it for me.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Is it possible for some of these, I know on the website, and I appreciate it, we have the complaints there,
Mm-hmm.
but an overwhelming majority of them are still, they say pending investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that we can update that on the website? So that that column doesn't, because right now, it only 3 cases have been disposed of based on the information on the website. I don't want people to think that that's the only thing that has been done when new cases are being added. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'll look and see if Ashley hasn't already done that, because the cases that we have on the website are the cases that, the investigation, or the complaints that we get to the PAB. We don't have the universal complaint. But this chart represents all the cases. So I'd have to look and see which cases that we got appear on this chart.
Okay,
And we will update it.
okay.
Is there some documentation that we already have that, defines the ACC findings categories or determinations? Some of these terms, that's what they mean?
I think
But I would rather-
they were given to you initially when you got your binder,
Okay.
but then I can also give you.
No, if it's in the binder, I'll find
Yeah.
it. Okay.
You mean the ACC findings column?
Yeah. So just the difference between,
Well, sustained means that the allegation was confirmed as well.
right,
But there was a preponderance of the evidence.
right.
Non-sustained means that there was not enough evidence to prove or disprove the allegation. Exonerated means that it happened, but it was within his police powers to do whatever it was. Unfounded means it just didn't happen at all.
Okay.
Are there any other categories you'd like to see? Because this is just a synopsis.
What's non-sustained?
Non-sustained means that there was not enough evidence to prove or disprove that allegation.
Okay, that's right.
But are there any additional I don't have any room for columns, I have to figure out how to work it out. But are there any additional columns you'd like to see?
Is there a final disposition of the case? I know that some of these may be pending whether or not the officer wants to.
Well, we haven't had any hearing boards yet, so no, there aren't any final, if they appeal, there aren't any final dispositions yet.
Right, so I guess what I'm wondering is ultimately will there be another column that is final disposition, whether that's, the discipline recommended was accepted or conducted or whether it was appealed or whether the discipline was reduced or increased, any of those things.
I can add that, but I'm just gonna figure out how to get that information, that isn't
Yeah.
something that is.
It may be something that gets filled in much later,
Mhm.
and maybe we catch up eventually, the case catches up eventually with file, or where the disposition catches up with it, because I imagine that you have to wait a certain amount of time to see if they will appeal it or not, or whatever. That
Okay.
might be interesting.
Can you do that?
Like right here where it says, I'm looking at it, department recommendation, say no recommendation.
That means that the department didn't have a recommendation for the charge that the ACC had. So you can see next to it where it says unnecessary force, that means when the department sent the investigation on, that was not one of the charges included that they recommended. That was something that the ACC recommended.
Okay, because I'm looking at the bottom one. That's 7722. They got no recommendation, no recommendation.
That means all of those in the next column?
Yeah, it's a unbecome, they show the charge, ACC charges, and then they say sustained, and then they say, but these per people lost 3 days pay.
Yes.
Okay. And that was the ruling of the ACC.
Correct.
Okay.
I wanted to ask about that. So let's use one that's sustained and you see a discipline. The fact that the discipline is on here, that it's gonna happen and they did not appeal?
I don't know whether they've appealed or not. I just know this was a finding that came to us from the ACC.
Okay, so I'm just wondering, Danny's point, to be able to, if we add the two, the one, whether if there's a way to know one, if they're appealing, and the second one, the final disposition from the AHB.
I'm sure there is a way, but that's kind of far down the road, but I did put a note to put the those columns.
So
Add
is
one column.
is this discipline column something that, is discipline that the ACC recommended
It
for
is
the matrix?
discipline? Yes.
Or is it, or has it occurred?
It has, I don't know whether or not
That's
it's
what we're
occurred
saying,
yet,
don't
or
know.
if the ACC has recommended that. I don't know if these officers plan to appeal or if they have
Right.
appealed. All I know is that we have not had any administrative hearings regarding any appeals.
I think we're saying something similar, where it would be,
No, we are,
it would
because
be
we
very
don't know.
interesting to see what a,
Seeing whether there's the discipline here doesn't mean that they aren't appealing it.
Correct.
And then, once, if they appeal it, you then would go to that next one about AHB and what they're,
Right.
what they're, right?
So I think for this, for
Can the-
this, excuse me, for this, I think that, maybe in the interim, we can just add like an asterisk, and at that asterisk, we can say, appealing decision of ACC, something like that.
Well,
So-
see, I don't know if they're appealing.
But let me,
They may not appeal, they may have accepted this. I don't know yet.
Okay.
How will you know?
that was later on, wasn't it?
That would be later on. Now, I would have to, because that information doesn't automatically come to me. I get the information from the ACC regarding what you all decide.
Right.
I don't get any information from the department regarding what the officer accepted or didn't accept.
Okay.
That was some information I can request.
Yeah, that's a question, yeah.
Right.
And I guess
Yeah.
further on that one,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if, is that something that the ACC could transmit
Yeah,
to us rather than you going to the
I'm not
department?
even sure, I'm not even sure
So hope-
if the ACC gets that information
So-
automatically.
so
Do
I-
that?
well, I don't know if we get it automatically, but there are there are a few, so there's some, there are a few cases that I see on here that I know for one that they are requesting a hearing, yeah.
Okay, well, the ACC must have that information.
Right, so, and so I'll ask that tomorrow, but that's what I was thinking, if they can at least give that information, then we can put it on this sheet in the form of an asterisk. And then we,
Because it could come from, that's what I'm saying, come from you all rather than Denise necessarily going straight to the law enforcement. So at least we know y'all have it and give it to us.
correct, yeah.
Okay.
Because we did ask that question, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Oh,
I was just, when you say, I mean, the definition of sustain, what is they, who they are sustaining, if there's no recommendation, what do that mean? I mean.
Again, under the column that says department recommendation,
Right.
that, I put that, if you line it up with the next column, let's look at, the date 12/15/2022. You see that under, the department recommendation, you see the sustain? That means that's the recommendation that came over from the department. Next to it, the demeaning language was,
the charge, the
was
allegation.
a charge, and it was sustained. The panel agreed with that. But those other ones under demeaning language were all added by the ACC. The department did not recommend that. Maybe I'm confusing with no
Gotcha.
recommendation. Maybe that's the term that's confusing.
Yes, I think I understand your point, and when it says no recommendation, it appears as if the department did not weigh in on that, in which case they didn't, because it only came out of the ACC's
Yes.
evaluation of it. But I think no recommendation makes it look like it came over from the department, and the department had no recommendation.
Right.
Because I was looking up.
But the department didn't have a recommendation.
Because they didn't,
Weigh in at all.
right, they didn't weigh in, but,
They investigated it, but they didn't.
well, in these, they didn't.
No. Anything that they send over, they've investigated.
They've investigated, but in their investigation,
Right.
they only wanted to charge him with use of language, use of
Right.
force.
Right.
The ACC looked at it and decided, necessary force, harassment, false
Right.
statement, tampering, and pushing
Right.
should have been added
Added
to
in
the
there,
charge.
sure.
But they did not make those recommendations.
Right.
So how
But
come
is
those
it-
are all not
That's all
listed here?
No, they
They're
are.
listed.
Look at the case numbers. The case numbers are, it's all the
Oh, I
same
get
case.
it, I get it, it's all the
Yeah.
same.
So that's what's throwing it off.
Right,
But it's-
right.
yeah, it's-
Those aren't
right.
individual cases.
Right.
Right.
Those are all one case, and they're just, she's
Different
listing
data
out
points.
every charge
Right.
for each case.
But is that discipline that we have in this discipline column, in the same one, you say the same case, like reduction in rank? Is that final, if that person does not is that a final judgment? That guy has to, whoever the officer is, have to appeal that, or if he wants to, but is that the final, he'll just be busted down to sergeant,
If he accepts that, and that's what we were
Yeah, I'm
asking,
saying,
yeah, if he accepts that, that's what we were asking.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
so we're gonna see if we can get that. Yeah.
Mr. James, what
Oh, okay.
term
I
do
see
you
you, Mrs.
recommend I
Spring.
use instead of no recommendation? I'm open to whatever.
In the way it's laid out, in this instance, it may be, and I don't know for sure if this works, but it's not applicable, right? For that, I'll just use the 1215, the second line for it. For the department recommendation, it's not applicable.
Not applicable, an NA?
That's what, that's what I'm thinking. If there are charges that come from the ACC, but from the department, they don't have a recommendation because it's not applicable. It could be blank too, but I don't want us to look and say, are we missing something in the data sheet?
If we
Right.
say,
So you saying no recommendation, you put that on there? That's just yours, no I thought that was, that when they got it from,
The ACC?
no, when they got it
From the department.
to the ACC,
Mm-hmm.
they had no recommendation.
No.
No, not
okay.
No.
Oh,
So
okay, okay.
what she's
I
saying
think it
is,
could be
so for
blank.
example, these are all
you
the
know what I
same
mean?
cases.
Right, I understand that.
So they only recommended this charge.
Okay,
And then
all
the
right, all
ACC
right.
added all these extra charges. So it's not that they,
applicable is our best bet.
yeah.
Okay,
I'll
all
put
right.
it in NA.
Okay, Mrs. Springs, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, my question was answered. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir, Dan.
I don't know if this is the case or not. Once the ACC makes a recommendation, they say, they're going by the matrix, they say loss of 3 days pay and leave. In the department, in any respective department, reduce or change that.
Change it upwards, but they can't reduce.
Can't go lower.
So whatever the ACC says, that's the minimum.
Yes. He wants to
Oh.
recognize.
He's recognized, yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't wanna barge into your meeting.
No, please.
Inspector General Bennett. In terms of charges, yes, when it goes back to the department, the chief has the authority to, up the charge, but it has to stay within that class. So if it's a class B, say level 1, they can go up to say level 2, level, whatever it is, but it has to stay within that class. They can't go lower, but they can go up. In terms of the charges, that are found, during the ACC process, when they view, body camera footage, look at the information, et cetera, they don't just look at that specific timestamp of when the incident occurred. They look at the entire totality of the incident. So they're essentially, they're viewing, hours of body camera footage, and not just the actual officer, it's the other officers that are involved in the incident as well. So there are times when they pick up on additional charges, that may not have been, added on, by the department. Just a suggestion. It's always important to have some form of, legend when you're looking at, these types of, formatted documents. You can asterisk ACC charges, and under the legend part, you can just explain, asterisk means these are charges that were added on by the ACC, so that kind of lessens the confusion, when you're reviewing a document. Just a suggestion, so,
Thank you, no, thank you, yep.
But that means something like, when you look at the cases sometimes, they say, you would say like Officer 1, and then it's another, they look at Officer 2.
if they see another officer involved in the incident, and they saw that one did this as well,
Right.
they would add that charge on as well. That's a charge that they can add on.
Okay.
so I was a little surprised. I knew that in previous times, added charges and then might find non-sustained. So you all have that same ability to add a charge, even if you're gonna find it non-sustained. Is that something y'all are
Yeah,
doing?
Okay. Yeah,
yes, sir.
I think we may have said something different last time. That's why I had that question too.
Yeah,
On
Yeah,
that.
'cause I didn't think-
It was the opposite last discussion about this.
so your question, yes. I can't recall the exact question from the last meeting that we had along those lines.
Okay.
But like IG said, that sometimes we can review some of the footage and things like that, things that were missed, we can say, this is something, and then we would start an investigation with that as well, if that makes sense.
So it just wasn't even dealt with, so the reason y'all then dealt with it and then found after you reviewed it, it should be non-sustainable.
Correct,
Like
correct,
we used to do.
correct,
I didn't think
correct.
that ACC was doing that. I knew CCOP did it.
Right.
I didn't know ACC had
Okay.
that in its bailiwick. Okay.
Okay, yes, yes,
Okay.
sir.
And the chair or IG Bennett, if the ACC is reviewing and they go and add additional charges, let's say it's from, the original complaint is for Officer One. They're reviewing it, they see something else, and they put that with Officer B. Is that a separate complaint now?
That would be a separate complaint. They would run that incident back to the actual department. Here are issues we found with
Okay.
Officer D.
Mhm.
So then that would be separate complaint, separate number,
Okay.
and you would be reviewing it
Yep.
as a separate case.
And there is, yeah.
Can I?
Okay, so that, I was just trying to figure out that in respect to using the 1215 as an example, if that was the same officer or now different officers in a different case.
In this case, this is
It sounds like one same
This is
thing.
the same officer all the way through.
Gotcha.
If another officer committed some type of act that may be a violation of policy, then that would have a separate case number, and a separate investigatory process.
Got it.
Can I ask one other question on that, Mr. Chair? So like this one, where you add, does the LEO, law enforcement,
Mhm.
have the ability, once something is added, to opine on it? Once it leaves them, are they done? So using that same 1215, there is, what's one, unnecessary force
Mhm.
that was sustained. No, I'm sorry, the ones, any of those
Mhm.
that did not come from the department but was added
Mhm.
by the ACC. At any point, does the department have a chance, once they're added, because they didn't even look at them, to be able to investigate them? Or once they leave them, do they stay gone and they've missed their opportunity to review?
Well, in terms of, this process, if something is noticed by the ACC investigators that they found, again, given their experience, they are former law enforcement officers, they have the experience to see, what's right or what's wrong. Within their report, they're detailing, part of the investigation that found those issues. That report goes back to the department, for them to review it.
Oh, that's what I mean.
Can they challenge it? I guess they could,
Mhm.
but it would be, I would say it would be difficult for them to challenge the issue, because typically if an ACC investigator found it, it's on tape somewhere.
Mhm.
So I can point to, 5-10 hours, in 31 seconds, where Officer A used some type of, abrasive language towards a citizen. I can point to that. So, do you wanna really argue with me that a cuss word is not a cuss word? That's,
And I think I'm a little bigger than, I guess I was just wondering, or maybe even the one, let's use the non-sustained instead of the sustained. So they come up and then they added, and maybe it was something that the original police
so the way
didn't see it.
the law.
Can they go back and look at it?
Yeah, the way the law is written, once it comes out of the ACC, the department cannot challenge.
That's what I was
No,
trying to
they
get
cannot
at.
challenge
Okay.
it. The only individual that can challenge an actual, rendering from the ACC is the actual officer.
That's what I was.
And that timeframe, and again, I'm sorry, I'll make sure I get you the actual timeframe. It's either 15 or 30 days, I can't remember off the top of my head. 30. Outside of the 30, if they don't challenge within that, then it's done. They have to serve the 5 days loss of pay, the 3 days, suspension, except whatever those rulings are. Now, if they appeal it, then that goes through the actual hearing board process, that's another conversation.
And then
So-
time period, I can
So that helps us with that part, knowing.
When that
the day-
second,
Right.
there's some indication, when you look at that second officer, and if he gets charged, some indication to say this is, it's the incident in case number 22 up there. When if they find that second officer did something wrong, they brought charges against him, doing the same incident. The second officer's trial, do they bring up this is associated with case number 22?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
because that second officer's individual act.
Okay.
Yeah, they're linked based on the incident itself, but that would be a whole new investigatory process on this date at this time, blah, 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 blah. This is what Officer B did in that incident. It really has no, the only way Officer A, who's the one that was originally charged, is listed in there, you know, is part of the investigatory process where they also use his body camera. So his issues are being dealt with, but this particular investigatory process is surrounding Officer B, not A. So he would be the subject of this particular incident. The only other way that changes if they charge Officer A and B at the same time, in that investigatory process, loop in both of them. So that's a different story. In this case, if the agency found Officer B did some type of criminal, or not criminal, administrative act, then that goes to another case number investigatory process. I hope I'm making sense.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, thank you. Mr. James?
So many things. I'm gonna try to narrow it down. I'm using 1215. I'm just trying to figure out how, because I think it's within our purview. I see what came over with the department recommendation. And all of these no recommendations, if I understand correctly, weren't a part of that investigation.
They were part of the investigation,
Well,
they just weren't.
Okay, I use a different word. They weren't a part of what came over with a recommendation from the department based on their investigation.
Mm-hmm.
The ACC investigators go through, they review the materials, including probably body-worn camera, witness statements, and they come up with these additional charges here. My concern is, how do we miss something like, I'm gonna call it assault, but it's on here, it's pushing complaining.
So you mean when you say, you're asking why was, under no recommendation?
How does the department miss?
So that's one of the reasons.
Which is why I think what we have to really assess is.
Right. So, but, okay, so let's just use that example. If the department missed it, but the ACC caught it, then the process is working, right?
Right, but for me, I'm saying that's where we come into play, because this is a problem to me.
Right, right.
This is a
And
problem.
it goes back to probably looking at the investigators and things like that, so some of that stuff. But the process is I mean, I get what you're saying, that is a problem.
Can I offer something?
Because, I mean, just one thing on this, when I think about what came over from the department, just for full transparency, when the department's recommendation is loss of 3 days of pay/leave, and a recommendation comes over and it's sustained for something such as reduction in rank and loss of 20 days pay, that's a substantially different issue going on.
Right.
And so, for me, that's where we have to peel back the onion and understand what's going on.
So, yeah, and I completely agree with you on that, and that's why HB 670 exists for those types of things that are happening. And so the process, to me, if that is in fact what we send in the data, but then it's being captured by the ACC, then the process is working. In my opinion, from the standpoint of looking at police accountability.
I think the process is working, but I agree with the two of you.
No,
That it is something we could look at.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely
As a pattern
agree.
or as a strategic issue or a systemic issue of why is a particular department or why are departments undercharging officers.
So then we can capture that data too. That could be something that we can capture as well. When we see that, then we can capture that data too and say, however we decide to label it, but we can capture that data as well. Not this thing here, but,
We want to see how many cases did the ACC add more charges than
Right.
were recommended by the department.
But it may be, and I apologize for speaking out, it may be related to that department or an investigator or something else.
Right, right.
And so that's what I think,
Yeah, but
this
we
is
might-
good at this level, but I think that there may be some instances where we need to spend some time on some of these to understand if there's a pattern or trend.
And I mean, the
I think
numbers
it-
will help,
Exactly.
right?
Big
And that's
more
part of our
questions, I
job to
agree.
do
Right.
that, is to look at the trends and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then when we raise that issue, then we can let them know that we have eyes on this, and it has to get better, that
On
process.
the other hand, I think the departments, if we see a pattern of this, a trend of this, those departments will say, well, the ACC is too strict, something like that. I mean,
Oh, wow.
I
I can't speak for them, but I think they're willing to take that one. I mean, I think they'll take that one.
So here's the thing, understanding that, again, I always say that this is new. There are gonna be some places where we have to tweak things and and make suggestions and recommendations. And so this will be an area that I think that we can make some recommendations. But the only thing with that is that we have to track that data. I don't think that it's fair to say, well, we're looking at a few, not to say that what you're saying is not wrong, but I think when you go with data, you cannot argue the data. And then we can say, okay, well, we see that, the department said nothing here, but there was something found here. Not only was it 1, 2, 3, and 4, so we can keep that data too. Yes, sir.
All right, so with that said, Denise, is this gonna be our primary sort of, validation of like how we look at the data? Because I only ask because we're probably at a certain point gonna start sorting
Yeah.
for trends, and just looking at some of the formatting, if you leave it blank, I wonder when you sort it later, if that might.
Oh,
Yeah,
it will
this I pulled this from the
database?
database we kind of hobbled together.
Yeah.
So we
Oh,
can
okay.
sort it the way you want it, but I wanted you to see everything that happened in one case.
So
So that's why I formatted it like that.
And what I think is better, and that's what I was talking about, a couple of meetings ago, is to figure out what data we want to start capturing and have those columns, because we can put this in an Excel form and start to, tweak it that way, yeah. So we can filter down and drill down and things like that. We can even do pivot tables to find some of that data too. So that's Dr. Coleman's wheelhouse stuff.
I had one slightly unrelated question.
Unrelated, like.
Is there any, involvement with, are there any corrective actions? So we find some of this stuff is sustained and we see a discipline that's put on the officer.
Mhm.
Let's say a complainant lost money, somebody got their car towed and they shouldn't have got something like that. Are there corrective actions, or does the complainant have to go through a separate process altogether, some type of civil process to get?
To recover, to be made whole. And so, we have discussed that on that side, but we thought that it would be best to send that over to us to figure out if that's some type of policy that we want to review based off of the data. And we can make even recommendations, because I think it's important for something that, was sustained, that the citizens should be made whole.
Yeah,
So that is something that can come from the recommendation rather than
okay.
the HCC, so yeah. That was in there, yeah. But this is good, Denise, thank you. And I'm sure this document will change. It's gonna be a document that will change. And I really would like to see it in a spreadsheet, so that way we can kind of drill down. Like Mr. James was saying, if we can see, we can pull up all the no recommendations, and then we can also pull up, ACC findings, and so we can see something. We can start making,
Yeah, I can sort it like you want. Again, I just had it so that all of the cases and everything under that case appeared like this.
So, yeah, but I think it would be important if we have the opportunity to kind of play with the data too, because there may be some things that each of us see and want to drill down to, right? You know what I mean? So then because for Mr. James, if he said that I want to look at this, and then if there's something, I'm like, well, you know what? I want to see how many cases have had this. I think it would be easier for us to kind of play with the data.
Well, I'll just see if I can put this access database in the Teams folder,
Okay.
because I'm using an access database that I created. I can put it in the Teams folder so everybody can have
Would
access
they-
to it.
Just make sure that you keep a master copy so that we don't lose version control.
So is it?
Because what I don't want to do is put, just send you all this, because this database has more than just this. It's got the names and some other information. I've isolated certain information.
Yeah.
So I would want to put it in a secure Teams folder so that you all can have access to it and you can manipulate it from there.
And there may be even something that can say, export to Excel or a spreadsheet or something like that.
I'm going to have to talk to Alex.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if I get it and I accidentally delete something or something, I don't want it to mess with the master copy.
I see what you're saying.
If I don't wanna have full access to
Right,
where,
right.
if I play around and move something or I accidentally cut and paste
They can give
something.
us access to
Wrong
the level where we just want to view it and create and draw.
Well, but we do wanna be able to manipulate the data or change things around.
I can ask for access where you can view and manipulate the next thing.
Or Denise, you could run a report on a date basis and you master, but what you drop for us to manipulate
Mm-hmm.
could be just a different version, and you'll always have the master, so.
And you have somewhere it exports, like if I have a folder, it
Well-
can be exported and I can play with mine
Yep.
as
But
opposed
on your
to everybody.
Right.
Well, see, the secured access will not allow you to download,
Right.
print, or I don't know, print, or share,
That's read only, you mean?
huh?
Read only or something like that?
It's like a read-only access. Now, what I would have to ask them is that we can give you access to manipulate the database, but not save your information.
Well, we gotta be careful not manipulate, but
Right.
sort.
Use a different word.
Yeah, we need to sort data. We wanna drill down
Yeah.
and sort data, yeah. Please don't say
Please don't.
I stand corrected,
No.
Yeah, you gotta use.
Yeah,
but
so-
you use the word manipulate.
Right, and so it's an easy ask,
I like
understand it,
that.
yeah, they can set that up so that we'll be able to drill down and things like that, yeah. Please say manipulate.
No,
I'm just-
no.
I'm saying, yeah, no, just say sort. Yeah, we just wanna be able to run reports that, you know, some of us may see some things, so. And then I guess, looking at this, and once we start actually getting into, the deep dive, we can start adding columns and things like that, and we may say this is needed. Like you said, NA, so we can, yeah, I think it's a good starting point. It's a great starting point. All right, cool, thank you, Denise.
Mhm.
Anybody else have any other questions, huh?
No, that was a
Yeah.
great,
Yeah. See, we can see, Denise.
yeah.
It was an eye test, we can see.
This is well done.
We got your eye.
Yeah, well, they do.
You just gotta get some reading glasses.
Is that what it is? I need reading glasses?
But this is good.
3.5.
And I
Okay.
can't see, and I.
Dollar Tree.
Yes,
Dollar
sir.
quarter.
125.
I'm new.
That's what these are.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
Lord, no.
So, all right, cool. So, moving on, anybody else have anything else? I mean, we can, if we have any category, when we get to that, again, when we're looking at the data, whatever the, category we want, I think we can put in there. And we can have as many categories as we want when we start doing these spreadsheets and things like that.
And when I send it to you, we'll have more cases on it,
Okay. Okay.
but at least it's giving them an
Yeah.
idea of what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And how you wanna see it.
Okay. Thank you, Denise. Moving on to the next agenda item is the recap of the MML conference. So we had some board members that went to the conference, and I would like for them to give an update on some of the things that they learned. I'm sorry, let me check with anybody online, any other board members online, did you guys have any questions? Okay.
No, I don't have any.
Okay. So that's Marva, Joe, and Denise? You guys have the floor. Oh, and Marcia, oh, you didn't have,
What is the MML conference?
Maryland Municipal League Conference, and, Marcia attended, I attended, Denise attended, and Tangi attended. That was everybody, right? It was a three-day conference in Ocean City. It's all the municipalities go, and they have a series of sessions. The leadership, i.e. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, created a list of sessions that they requested, because neither one was able to attend, requested that we, participate in. And I will say we participated in each one of them, the sessions on a number of issues. And we took notes, but for purposes today, I don't think y'all want us to go through our 10-page notes. But one, for example, was risk management. So we attended that. We did, I think, some social media and some other. It was a large range of sessions. In addition, we participated in the Prince George's Municipal Association breakfast, which is Prince George's only municipality. And we also participated in the police chief, breakfast, which honors a top cop. And so in those two, breakfasts, we had an opportunity to meet, and the first one with all of the, that was the black one, right? Was that the?
With the mayors?
With the mayors?
Yeah.
Was that, yeah.
Yeah.
So this was the black mayors, the first breakfast.
Yeah.
Okay,
Remember what
so
happened, yeah.
all of the municipal leadership from black, in the Black Association for Municipalities. And there was the governor, so we had a chance to hear from him. And, when we went to the top cop one, we had an opportunity again to hear from, the governor and also to see who, received an award. We we also participated in some receptions that were hosted by certain stakeholders, so we were able to do that. I think the highlight for me, and I don't know if for the others, was we really got to talk to some of the, municipal chiefs, and they got to get to know us a little better, so that line of communication, I think, was open, and I thought the sessions, were good. And I will tell you all, we probably started our days probably around 7 and ended probably about midnight. So we were very, very visible, and as Marcia has on, we had on the sheet, our shirts, so people really were able to see us participating, in the whole.
And I sent you all order forms for the shirt, feature, your,
I was trying to do it quick, Denise or Marcia.
very quick, thank you.
Do they have to be blue?
Their color option on the sheet, we don't have to.
Were,
Why don't we just stay uniform now? So, yeah, let's stay with blue. Danny was like, do they have to be blue?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm not a, but Marcia, Denise, anything else?
No.
I just want to tell them about this one training that I went to. It was, homeless outreach training. I don't know why I went there, but I just went on in there, but it was real interesting. The police officer who conducted that training was telling me that, we should look at a trend when they arrest people, that live in homeless shelters. He was, giving us, different demonstrations where, these 12 people, they lived in this same rooming house or boarding house, and they was all unemployed. And one would go out and rob the 7-Eleven. And this was all the same night. And then one would go out and rob Giant. And then one would go out and rob Starbucks. But he was saying when you look at the address, they were all from the same location. So he was saying that these people really didn't need to be arrested. They needed some kind of wraparound services to try to help these people. But he was just saying it was a growing trend of people that are homeless or living in these shelters, you know, are the people committing a lot of this crime.
Mm.
And he was just telling us, just look at the address when the police arrest these folks.
You
I
got
think you
squatters
also-
too.
Huh?
All right.
They case out a house that's been vacant and they squatters, and all of them live there, you know what I mean? Like you say, and then you gotta go out and, you know, 'cause we need dinner tomorrow and,
Right.
you know, tonight, and you go rob there, or you go, shoplift there, you know what I mean? That's what the deal is. But, you know, that's real bad out here because we don't have, in Prince George's County, our services as it relates to what you're talking about is not as good as DC.
Right, DC has some really good services. But I met, I was gonna call her the mayor, the city council person in Bladensburg. She was telling me that their police officers, when they get a call for domestic disputes, they don't actually send a police officer to respond. They send, a social worker, whatever title you wanna give them, but they have a social work background. But she said, they just don't waste the time of the police officers. You know, they send, you know, somebody out to
Well, you know,
do service.
I know that we're split up, I think in Central County,
Mhm.
the sheriff's department come out for cases.
Mm.
And then the south, in the north, it's the police officers. But you're talking about in a municipality, if they call the Bladenburg police, you're saying they send like a mental health person or
Yeah.
somebody like that?
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And I think also, did you,
Go ahead.
no, finish it, because you also went to the demonstration, was it the body cam?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh.
you know, if
You went to that? Okay.
Yeah.
That was really interesting. That was really good. I mean, they had this, like that whole wall there.
Virtual, yeah.
Yeah, and you could see all of the municipalities at once, you know. And so you could see, and they had some kind of data that came up where you could see all the crime that was going on, like 24 hours round the clock.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So it was a real-time report of actual crimes as they come in.
yeah.
Okay.
You went with me or
Yeah,
with
we
Denise?
were all,
Oh,
we
it was
started
demo?
long,
demo?
It was
Was it one of the vendors?
vendors,
It was a
yeah.
vendor.
Oh, it was a vendor.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah, it was
okay.
a vendor. It wasn't a
Simulate your body.
class.
Yeah.
Practice your body so they
What
can see
they were selling
cameras.
was,
Yeah.
they were trying to sell a video, I wanna call it, for lack of a term, a video storage facility. App, where all the municipalities could store their information in one place.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So the ACC, for instance, wouldn't have to go online and look at something, get a DVD to look at something and look at it everywhere, but everybody's municipality information would be right there, and you could just pull it up from there.
And
one
click
day.
it. Okay.
And then I guess the last thing I was gonna mention, we took several pictures, because we know that part of what we're supposed to be doing on the website is letting the community know that we are in the community. So at some point, hope that we would be able to post those pictures that were taken as part of MML.
Thank you. Ms. Bryant has her hand up. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I just wanted to say that, thank you for giving us that debrief. And I'd also like to know, how the word was generated regarding this opportunity. I know that I wasn't aware that the, MML was happening, nor that we had the opportunity to attend. And, so I'd like to, I guess, recommend that the opportunity be made available to all those who are interested and not, I don't know how you selected that person, these people, who would attend, so.
Yeah, it went to me as the chair, and I made the decision to select those people to go to that training.
Understood, but I'm saying give everybody the opportunity to ask. I wasn't aware of it at all.
Yeah, so as the chair, I have the opportunity to select the people. So if I ask you, then you can say yes or no.
So you're saying you don't give other members the opportunity, you just choose somebody in that you want to go? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, and is that part of our mandate? Is that what the rules are now? That you
Yes.
you just select whatever you want?
Correct.
Well, I'd like to
Because,
recommend that we modify that because that's not really inherently fair, is it?
well, Denise said that at the beginning of the meeting, when you asked about training previously, said that the training was up to the chair, the training, the types of training that we'll go to, and the choices of the people attending the training.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, but I'm saying at least give those of us who would be interested the opportunity to participate fully in this process. I would like to
Okay.
know when there are opportunities, and that you not just make a, I mean, for the sake of being transparent, that you include others and not a personal selection, however you chose. I'd like to be made aware of those opportunities.
Right. And it wasn't personal, but noted. I'll take note of that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Denise,
Hmm?
did you have anything else?
Nothing else there?
Okay. Ashley, did Ashley go?
No.
Oh, Tangy went. Okay. All right, cool. Sorry, I didn't. I'm sorry. Her problem. Her eyes got big. Yeah. Okay. Next on the agenda. Thank you for that update. We have those. You have the pictures?
From the,
Yeah.
conference?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you give me permission to circulate.
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay.
Once you write up the notes and finalize them, will you send them out?
Coffee chat. Next on the agenda is coffee chat. So this morning we had a coffee chat with let me make sure I get them straight. Laurel, Greenbelt, and Prince George's County. We invited them to come in and just have just a conversation about what they're seeing, what we're seeing, and just have a general conversation to build a relationship. One of the messages that Marsha was there, Vice Chair was there, and Mrs. Springs were there. And we, oh, I'm sorry, and I apologize. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. O'Neil, Mr. O'Neil was there. One of the things that we were all, in agreement on was to try to be the connection between the police department and the community. And they were big on that as well. I mean, the meeting was an hour, but I think we went like an hour and 20 minutes. The discussion was absolutely great. We got a lot of feedback. One of the questions that I asked, was how the officers were feeling about the new HB 670. And so, everybody, Greenbelt was there, and they were sharing some of their thoughts and, what they think about the process, and they have faith in it, and I can say that Greenbelt is definitely doing the right thing. They're engaged, not just with the Police Accountability Board, but in their community as well. And so they gave us a lot of recommendations, and Mr. Vice Chair, jump in at any time, Mr. O'Neil and Marsha and Marvin. It was just so much, just asking questions, and Mrs. Springs, you as well. Just finding out a lot of things as far as, retention, the average age of the police officers and things like that. These are some of the things that, I thought was really good to hear. Mr. Vice Chair, what did you take away from it?
Yeah, I think it was a good introductory conversation where we can kind of meet each other in a non-pressure-filled environment and just kind of talk. I think the interesting thing for me was that just as we look at some of the things in legislation and the matrix and everything else that we would like to see change, they also kind of agree, and leadership in these police departments, I think, are willing to work with us to push some of these changes through, because they see it as beneficial too, right? They worry about some things in the matrix being too lenient even, right? And not being punishing enough, because they don't wanna hold on to bad officers either. They wanna find a way to work them out. If they've got bad officers who need to go, that they wanna be able to let them go, and they wanna make sure that whatever's in place doesn't give those officers cover to stay and keep working and all that. And I think it's just good perspective for us to keep in mind when we're dealing with the community and we're talking about things, that there's always two sides to every conversation. But I thought it was a great introductory meeting.
Mr. O'Neil?
Yeah, I thought it was good, and, they were talking about the matrix, and, and I suggested that, before the, next legislative sessions, if we could have like a meeting with them and saying, if we agree on changes to make the matrix, the statewide matrix I'm talking about there, that they could present, not us, they could present to the legislature in changing or modifying to make it more, helpful to everybody, and, that, and also, some things we talked about this morning, once we looked at it here, I see that we might butt heads in the sense that if, they make a recommendation in the ACC board, committee, do a more thorough check, that might be one of the trends that we see that, we might butt heads with, you know what I mean? Because, it's not our fault that they do that. And then another point came up, and then I realized it. I think one of them brought up, I don't know if it's Laurel or whatever, about the timing of cases. But when you think about it, it's not us.
Right.
That is the actual department. When they put in the complaint, the turnaround is not according to us, it's according to them, where that department get to that case, and then it comes to us, you know what I mean? So, but overall, it was a good meeting, and, in some cases, there's a dialogue, and, and if we can get three more different people, three more different departments to find out, because what it came up that, Greenbelt, this is what they said, not me, but they said the average age of their office is 24 years old. Patrol, right.
21?
24. Which is, I was surprised, because that's kind of young. They couldn't have been, on the average, working, 3 years, 4 years? that case, you know, I mean, that was good to know.
Mm-hmm.
And we asked that other departments could give us some kind of data on that. That being said, that means that they have to watch them more in training and dealing with the community too, though, you know what I mean? I mean, just because they're young and because they brought up, I think one of the Prince George's department brought up, some guys who won't, they see kind of hard, they will go to another less, stressful
Department.
county or something like that, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't see that happen, but that's what they were saying, you know. That's what I got.
Yeah, it was good. So, it was, go ahead.
You remember, one of the police officers was saying that it takes 25 hours to do a report?
A review, yeah. So there's some of the things that they, I mean, it was really, really good information to hear that. And one of the things that we thought about, Martha Jo, and I'll defer to you in a second, one of the things we thought about is that we want to have these, we may look at doing them more often, so some of us may not be able to, but we're going to have more opportunity with different departments. And I told the police that this is not one-sided, and they agreed that we're going to do these with the community as well. So we'll be making our rounds. And one of the things I thought was important is that when we do go out to speak to the communities, eventually to the citizens, that we want to have a citizen representing a stakeholder, along with a police officer, with a board member as well. Because that we are the bridge between the both of them, and we need to coexist, so we got to make it work. But just listening to some of the stories that the police officers were sharing with us, and one of the things that I wanted them to understand, that this was a safe space, that whatever they say here stays there, and it's for the betterment, because I want them to feel comfortable with saying anything to us. And the same, it was a two-way street, and so, I mean, they were great. Everybody, we were cracking jokes, but we got some real good information. I'll see your hand in a second. And it was really, really good. So, moving forward, I reached out to Office of Community Relations to give us some, civic associations and some communities. And even if you guys know some, let's throw it out there. We can have somebody go represent the, Police Accountability Board, on that. Because I think it's, now with the summertime coming and things like that, it's easier for us to get out and to go places, and to brand it. Now we have shirts as well, so we're good. But, I really think that it's important for us to, continue the dialogue between the community, the citizens, and the police department. I guarantee them that this is going to work. It's new. We're going to tweak a lot of things. One of the things that I wanted, them to understand is that I conveyed a lot of the things that I heard from citizens to the police department. They were receptive of it. They didn't get pushback. We did ask them about what we spoke about as far as, potentially one, report, them doing it. They were open to it. If they can make it happen, they would definitely be open to something like that. So having one standard report from every jurisdiction, that's something that they say that they would do. And so we asked them to take that message out and spread it to the other agencies, and they said, yeah. Mama Jo?
I think y'all did a great job, Supervisor.
Oh, okay.
The only other thing that they had suggested, and we think about it, is that it was a suggestion made that we basically meet with some of the, unions, the fraternal order of police and stuff.
Okay,
you know,
yeah.
And, you know, you know, and, we just have to think about that, and see, you know, I mean, because I don't wanna go in a meeting, you know, and, you know, if they're gonna, we have to have give and take, we just have to think about if you wanna do that.
Every meeting will be in the same format that we did today. It'll be the same thing. It'll be a conversation. There's no agenda. Just whatever you think about, because sometimes they may have seen something that come up, and they shared some things with us. We can't get into specifics, because we are in an open session, but they shared some things with us that was real interesting, and I can honestly say this from the officers that were there today, the leadership, that they don't want bad apples on their force. They really, really don't. So, I think it would be great to continue the conversation, and when the citizens start understanding that, we're here for them, and when we start looking at the data and things like that, Mr. O'Neill, what he said earlier is that when we have that data and we compile it, they can take that data and then go and say, hey, look, it's too lean here, we need to add this here, and things like that. So I just think it was a great conversation. And so, I encourage everyone to take the opportunity. I know it's in the middle of the day, and maybe we'll ask them to do it in the evening, but Greenbelt it was even like they'd come to one of our meetings and talk to us, if they wanted to do that. Yes?
Are you
Ms.
speaking to
Bryant?
me? Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I really appreciate that feedback. That was great. But I do have a question about you said that the process would be the same for every meeting. So my first question is, was this an invitation from them for us to meet with them, or was it our invitation to meet with them first?
We sent the invitation out to them.
Okay, that's great. So with community groups, so we had talked briefly about having a presentation to just tell them more about what the Police Accountability Board does. And several of us have volunteered to help write that presentation. I don't know, is that still an option, or we're not going to have any kind of
Well, no, it's still an option. I think that would be more for the citizens. Trust
Yeah.
me, they know what the Police Accountability Board is supposed to do. So we just wanted to create that dialogue and start having those coffee chats. So yeah, that's definitely something that we want to take to the community. One of the things that I think that's going to be important in our messaging is just awareness and education to the public.
Exactly.
One of the things that I don't want is to become a session of, the police did this, they arrested me 13 times, and things like that. We're not there for that.
Yeah.
We're there, so when we present that presentation, everything that we're going to give them will be pretty much on our website, right? So any questions that they have, every answer will come from that. But the police department today, they know what's going on. So I'm saying the formats with the chiefs will be the same.
Right.
And even with the citizens, it's going to be a conversation. I think having more of a conversation where everybody can kind of relax and say what's on their heart. I believe when it's spoken from the heart, it's received by the heart. And so for me, I think that having it in that format, and if you guys want to change it, but I think it was, everybody just kind of woosah when we got in there and we started talking, and we learned a lot of stuff today. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to mention, I know Mr. James brought up with the minutes, I think one of the things can do to be helpful, even though we haven't done it in the past, there were about 6 or 7 action items where people had volunteered for stuff. What I will do, Tangi is not back until next week. What I will try to do is extract those action items, so that will address like some of the things Ms. Bryan just brought up.
Perfect.
So even though you get the minutes, at least those action items, so you can go back to that separately from there.
That would be.
At least keep us, I'd be happy to do that.
That would be awesome. I also suggested that we use the coffee chats that already exist with the different divisions. They have weekly or monthly chats. And I think the presentation part would be really good for them. Sometimes I attend them, but it would be good if we could do at least one per quarter. But I guess that'll come out in the to-do list.
But the other thing is that we also would have to have, the coffee chats is good, but we also have to meet with them once we review the cases and we come up with some trends that we can convey to them what we saw as trends or repeat things that, they might want to straighten out. We can't do.
Does anybody have the impression that if they have people on staff, perhaps administrative staff, that do that, report to leadership about what they're seeing and how they might?
You mean in each department?
Yeah.
So some of them are very small, so they don't have the manpower to do that.
He does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
They
they have a lot
do.
of data publicly
Yes.
available.
Yeah.
It's like, they have a database, because a lot of the large police departments across the country are doing what they're calling big data policing, and so it's a new way to collect data, aggregate it, analyze it, but like you said, Kelvin, the smaller ones don't have, like, those people that do that, so they probably would appreciate, like, if we
Be able to provide that data for them.
facilitated
Yeah.
that and do
Okay.
that for them.
Because,
Yes.
because somebody's saying, somebody gets stopped for a driving violation. If they get a ticket and they get mad, so they file a complaint. that is discourteous. But, you know, the person probably, you know, it's a wasted complaint, and it's something that they should settle in court.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
if they go to court, the judge probably threw the whole thing out, but they're so mad, they wanna, you know, police complaint board, you know, police complaint, you know what I mean? And they were talking about, you know, trends like that, or the one guy was telling me in some cases that woman got a DUI. After a while, she wants to do a complaint and said she was missing $2,500. You know what I mean? Those are frivolous complaints, you know, that, but we have to be able to, compile in our review of this, what's trends and how the police, municipalities can just look at it and take it in consideration to, say, this is what, when we met with the PAB, that we need to, better on, in some cases, you know.
Mr. James?
I was just gonna say to your question, you know, a larger department like the county police department probably has an early intervention system, so they're tracking that for every officer, and it should alert the command staff if there's some trend. But the smaller departments, the cost of those systems, and then the responsibility of watching is, they're not gonna do it. It's not financially feasible. So it then becomes incumbent on us to become that early intervention system, which is why additional data fields on, for example, officer. If you see a trend with an officer, then we become that early intervention system. I would also say it's important to get this data as we have meetings in the community, because the community is going to ask about their department. So it's hard, and I'll just, you know, Glen Arden or Brentwood, it's going to be hard to go to their community and not have some answers about their police department, their community now, as well as with the county. So I think we've got to be prepared to provide that type of information in that presentation. What is the PAB doing? But are there any things that the community should be aware of?
So what kind of questions would they probably ask? Give me an example of what somebody in the community would ask about their police department.
I could see them potentially asking questions about, well, what do you do if you see A, B, or C? Or, and I don't want to get into specific cases or try them in the community, but I think that they'll say, we have experienced this and it turned into nothing. What do you do when you don't see anything happen? That goes into what this process is and how they follow that process and what the community can do and what are their resources. And again, pointing it out, because police departments will often say, hey, you can file a complaint with us. You can file a complaint. It's difficult for a member of the community to go file a complaint with the people I'm complaining about. So they need to understand what is that option. For me, the police departments need to make the community aware of filing the complaint with the PAB. Their process or procedure may not be that, but that's something to consider, that option is made available to people. But I think the concern will be based on rumor mill, stories that they'll have, anecdotal stories about the community. But I think we need to be able to have data to say, here's what's happening and here's how it is being responded to. Because I think it's incumbent upon us to tell the story for the police department that's often not heard as well. So if they're doing something and they're taking steps, we need to tell them with those steps. Most of these are personnel matters, and they say, well, we can't talk about that. But if there are things that we can share that allow them to know the police department is taking your complaint seriously, and when those complaints come through, we are also looking at them, ensuring that they're being taken seriously as well.
One of the things that, like, with the data that you could collect would be like hotspot policing, because everybody does that, whether you're big, large, medium, or small agency. So, like, hotspot policing is, you know, where most of the arrests occur between, you know, the hours of 8 and 2 in the morning. And then if you look at youth crime, most juvenile crime is committed after school hours, between the hours of 4 and 8. And so, like, if you had some of those kind of data, I'm sure, like, community folks would want to know, like, you know, where are the hot spots in my, you know, in my town, or is it the shopping center over here, or where it is? And so those kind of data, you know, could probably provide and get, because they should be collecting those, even if they're small.
Exactly.
But I think that's incumbent upon the police department and not this board. We get into a bad area when we start to talk about crime reduction, crime fighting, and public safety. That's not in our purview. Our purview scope it goes back to discipline and complaints.
Correct.
And when we start talking about the hot spots, I think that's more the police departments and not
PAB.
the PAB, because then people will say, well, we need y'all to send the police over there.
So one of the
That's
things
not-
that, and so I'll see you in a second, Mr. O'Neill. One of the things I think that is important, is that we don't overcomplicate this.
Yeah.
Like Mrs. Bryant said, the presentation will do that. I think a lot of citizens think we're the end-all, be-all, I mean, that we hand down judgment and things like that. So part of our job is education. If they have specific questions about the police department, then the police, personnel need to answer those particular questions. I think when we get into starting to spit data and facts, and then we compile our report at the end of the year, it may say something different. So I would suggest that we tell them at the end of the year, we compile all of that data, because it's not fair to just say, okay, well, we see this and see that. The police department has their data, like you said, Prince George's County Police Department, they have their data. And there's some smaller departments may not be able to. One of the things I think that we should do is just to educate the public that we exist, what it is that we actually do, and why we exist. I mean, to go full stop. We don't want to, like you said, we don't want to start trying and anecdotal things. Well, this happened to me, this police officer, we're not there for that. We want to stay, because cameras are everywhere. So we have to be careful in the things that we say and the perception that we give of this board. I think it's very important to stay consistent in every messaging, whoever goes out. But I just want the community to know that we're here to serve them, and we're here to serve the police department. And one of the things that I shared is that it is our goal that everybody that sleeps in Prince George's County knows that we're doing the best and we have their interest. That's what we want to do. So I don't think it's fair for us to say, I think the presentation will be great, and we'll have to tweak it as we go. It'll be great to have the majority of the board, whichever one we go to first, and then we can come back and discuss what we see and how we should tweak it moving forward based off of some of the input we get from the community at that point. Because one of the things that I do know is this, is that there's a stigma around policing in the country. And so, because Prince George's County is one of the few places where we're having police accountability by the citizens, we want to make sure that we're just not saying, okay, come to us and complain, dump all your stuff on that. Also with that, we want to educate the citizens that you have a role to play as well. I mean, you can't spit on police officers and do things like that and then say, okay, I want to file a charge against you because I felt like you were unfair to me. We want to educate them as well. So I think it's going to be a tweaking process, and we'll get it right, hopefully. But I'd like to say at the end of the year, we have something big, almost like a town hall, where we can invite people to just come out and we can share some of the annual report that we have and the data and things like that at the end. And the same thing with the police department, to get everybody together in one room at one time, and we can just say, hey, this is what some of the things that we found with our data and things like that. Go ahead.
Like this morning, I mean, the question was asked, I think when we started, I think the Laurel Police Department said he has seen an increase in complaints. And I think the question was asked to Denise, how many complaints have came directly to the PAB. And I think you said 56 or something. And what I'm saying is, goes back to your point, is that when we go to these smaller communities, that we have to be able to tell them that if Morningside, you don't want to, the police there, this is the process to have the complaint through us.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
They have to be able to know that. We have to give them that kind of information.
Right. So one of the things that I think would be great is that we develop a QR code. So if they have anything, you say, hey, boom, just point your camera this will give you all of the information that the PAB does, and if you want to file a complaint, there'll be a link on that as well. Yes.
I just want to clarify what Laurel said about the increase in their complaints. What they were talking about was the process that they're now, it's not an increase in the complaints, it's the increase in taking the complaint through the formal process. They're getting the same number of complaints, but before they weren't investigating them to the extent that they are, because there are some that they didn't feel rose to this level, but to comply with the law and be transparent, every time somebody complains, it's going the same route regardless of how serious that complaint is not. So their numbers in terms of formal complaints are gone.
I wanted to add on, because that's the same thing I was getting ready to say. There were two things that I thought were really interesting. One is they said somebody break a fingernail They were doing it, that the police officers themselves were filing it as a complaint, because they were so afraid that they weren't following the new law. So they were causing themselves to go up in the number of
Oh,
complaints.
yeah, internal.
And then on the other side, they used an example, some things that should go through the court system was going through the complaint system. And so spending 25 hours on a complaint when the body camera clearly showed it, and it should have gone through another system. And so this kind of convergence of them doing more and people not understanding what options are available. So I think one thing I took from that is when we're educating, really knowing as a citizen what my options are when I have an issue with a police. That it's not just one option, I got others, and that's not making a statement about what you should do. It's just, here's your menu of options.
Right.
As a citizen, and that to me is part of our educational process.
And all of them are not police issues.
They were, right,
Yeah.
right, they
Okay.
were.
That's, you know.
Okay. Who else had anything else on that? Yes, sir.
Can we take a break?
In a second, we'll get to that. Anybody have anything else about what we were talking about?
I just want to say they were great this morning. They really were
Can you
great.
repeat that third department? It was Prince George's, Laurel, and
Greenbelt.
Yep. And they were, I'm really, they were very, very engaged. I mean, they shared some great information, but I think it's information that we can take away, and it helps us do our job better. Yes, sir.
I would just say, just to try to balance it as much as possible with that community perspective.
That's what we said,
And
yes, sir.
that's essential, that the community understands that it's on record that we are trying to balance
So
that.
that's what I said,
Yep.
that's why I stated here today that we're going to do that as well with the community. We're gonna have just as many with the community as we have with the police department, and then we're gonna have both, everybody come together, the CAB members, the community, and the police department, because we all have to coexist and we need each other. And so when citizens we start working together. My hope, and I think everybody would share that, is that complaints start to go down. That policing is done right in Prince George's County. And so when we start to build this alliance with the community, the police department, and the Police Accountability Board, I truly believe and hope that the complaints will go down, and that the bad officers will be weeded out and will be caught in HB 670.
Mr. Chair, part of, just as a reminder, we have that quarterly responsibility. So this was part of our quarterly responsibility to meet with law enforcement. So it wasn't to supplant anything else, it was to make sure, in every opportunity, we can meet that, whether it's going to their meetings or them coming to something we've invited them to.
but does it fully satisfy that if it's only a few?
Yeah, because remember, you all talked about, sometimes we may dispatch people to different community activities.
Yeah, we don't have to meet with everybody every
Based on
quarter.
y'all strategic plan, y'all would be meeting every day.
We have to have a meeting a quarter.
Yeah, but
So
we
if
have
we meet
to
with
have
a
enough
department,
so that
that
we
actually
can look at
technically
trends
meets the
and
requirement.
put it in the annual report though, don't we?
I mean, hopefully.
And and I'll be honest, we're
Ideally,
going,
we wanna do outreach, but
we're gonna go above that, because the communication,
That's not right.
I mean, it was great, and I think that we need it, and so I truly believe there'll be ambassadors that say, hey, you guys need to go meet with the Police Accountability Board when they invite you, coffee chat. We had some great donuts, no meat today, but, I think.
It was coffee.
Okay, it's coffee, right, with coffee chat. But, and so, I don't wanna hold up, I heard that there was, a break needed, but Daniel had something.
Yeah, another question, did we I don't remember if we discussed a quorum for the meeting, or needing to meet a quorum requirement, or if it's just by individual member, I just don't know if we.
You talking about for what?
To attend the meeting.
Yeah, if we attend a meeting,
No, whoever
for
can
the
make it.
count, okay.
Yeah, whoever can make it.
We did ask that question.
Yeah.
That question was asked, that question was asked, but I don't know if it was answered. I don't recall specifically.
Okay, so whoever can make it, because they're not recorded, it's not part of the Open Meetings Act, correct me if I'm wrong, Marvin Joe.
And
So
we're
whoever
not
can make
trying
it.
to evade, I mean, and I'll say it again, we do more than probably we have to do on the Open Meetings Act to be safe, but in this particular, there are certain times the Open Meetings Act applies, and then you show why you get a waiver, and there are other times when it doesn't apply at all. And sort of the test is, are you trying to do something to evade something to keep the public from knowing? And that's and so I've had with the AG several conversations trying to make sure that what we're doing does not take us over, and she said she thought that we were, the things that we were doing
Within
were
compliance.
in compliance.
I'm hearing a different question though, and maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe I'm
Is what you're asking, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, is what you're asking saying that there has to be a quorum of the PAB at any of these coffee meetings or not?
Yes.
And I think that's your question, and I think what you've answered, if I heard correctly, is that no, there does not.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it still counts as one of our quarterly, and there's no minimum number of police departments we have to meet with to check the box
The
on the quarterly.
legislation is silent.
But we
as
tend
it
to
relates.
do more than, is that, am I hearing that correctly?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I moved
if
that we take a
everybody
break.
was there, then we might have to be
Right,
subject to the,
right.
that's what I was.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I think that was the question we were asking before.
Right,
If we all showed up,
right.
then we got a scenario that we have to address. That's
We
why,
might have a different, right.
Yep.
and that's what we were trying to get clarity on.
Okay.
Was, in these instances, do we create a situation if a quorum is present?
But we didn't really, here's why we, even so, because we didn't discuss business of the PAB.
Right.
It was an informal chat about policing, not, a thin line. But,
We gonna need these glasses.
One of the things.
I'm with you, yeah.
Because it
one of-
wasn't PAB specific, it was kind of policing, I mean, if you look at the questions, they were just kind of best practices, and they weren't specific to.
Yeah, but we're saying informal, but then we also said we're gonna use it to put in a report.
That's what I was-
Well, we
No.
just suggest count the widgets for the report.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting a little too, well, first of all, we're going to continue to do it the way that we did it today. If that issue arises, then we'll address it hopefully at that point. But right now, we're going to continue to have these informal discussions. We're going to do them the same way with the public. Because one of the things that I told the law enforcement agencies that were there is that we don't want to seem biased on any part of the room. We are right in the middle, even though we are, HB 670s because of the citizens. We're here for them, but we want to make sure that we're doing everything. And so we're going to be equal weight. When we meet with the police department, we're going to have the same amount of meetings with the community.
Then we should have different colored shirts than they do. And I don't mean that flippantly, and I'm not saying that in a sarcastic way. I'm saying that particular color blue is often associated with law enforcement
Right, that's true,
specifically.
that's true.
And by wearing those shirts with that color blue, it may be perceived, we have to be aware that it may be perceived that we are aligning ourselves informally or at least perception-wise with law enforcement specifically.
Okay, no,
I did want to say one other.
So again, it's just something to consider, maybe we can talk about it during the
Okay.
break, or we can talk about it at another time.
Okay.
But
I did
I
wanna
don't
say-
mean the change of color in a flippant way
I got
or
you,
in a
understand.
sarcastic
We'll
way.
discuss it. So, you're the one that said you wanted to break, but,
I did want to say one other
you did.
thing, is
That's
if we
important.
had a discussion about this form at that meeting this morning, that would certainly have fallen within the
Right.
open meetings act. That's an example.
That's
where
why we didn't have an
would've been
agenda.
specific.
Understood, agreed, but
Okay.
that's why I was trying to understand that thin line, because if you have a discussion about changes to the matrix and recommendations, do you?
We did not
We
discuss
didn't
changes
have
to the
that, we
matrix.
might have said that we should look at the matrix,
Right.
but not what the changes.
Right,
That's what I'm saying. There were no specifics.
yep.
So that's why I use this as an example. Can we have a break? I know you're
I make a motion that we take a break for 10 minutes,
So, okay.
or 5 minutes.
Motion on the table to. Seconded by, motion made by Mr. Vergamini, seconded by, sorry?
No, I'm saying,
Oh,
so
that's
if you're
the
not
second-
doing a formal vote, you need to do the challenge.
Oh, okay, yeah, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. Well, you taught us well. So, so let's just go ahead. So everybody, all in favor of taking a 10-minute break, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, unanimous. We'll take a 10-minute break at now 8:07. We'll come back at, how much is that? No, 17. Great, thank you. Okay, we are now resumed at 8:23. Next on the agenda is the selection of additional administrative hearing board members. Denise, can you talk a little bit about that real quick?
Well, you all selected 2 members initially, and we thought the 2 was gonna be sufficient to begin with. But the longer they were taking to assign the judges, the more hearing boards are being requested, particularly in the police department, the Prince George's County Police Department. So my concern when I looked at the numbers, a couple of weeks ago, is that two is not, once they get the judge and everybody's ready to go, two is not gonna be enough. And the reason there's a push to do it now is that the state is only doing the mandatory training on a quarterly basis now, and the next training is coming up on July 26th. After that, 25th, after that, the next training won't be till October. So if we can get people in now, I've already reserved space
Okay.
in that training. If we get people in now, that would be great, rather than waiting for the 26th, because they can't do it until October, because they can't do anything until they've been trained.
Will they be confirmed in 2 weeks?
They don't have to be confirmed. Once you select them, they're all confirmed.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep. All right, yes, sir.
But we have two that are ready to go now.
You have two that have been trained and have been waiting,
Yes.
to do something.
Mr. Feeney and,
Ms. Parker.
Ms. Parker.
But there are a number of hearings they're just waiting for us to, pull the trigger on the judge, and I haven't been given the, authorization to get a judge yet.
Right.
So once they give me an authorization to get a judge, I've asked them to they wanna start scheduling. Like, one guy has had, put in a request since March for a hearing, and we've been holding him off. I'm just afraid that these things are gonna start rolling in, because I
Okay.
believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Prince George's County Police Department has a significant number that are just waiting for us to schedule them.
All right, yes, sir.
So I'm unclear on what's the holdup. Because I didn't think the judges was our responsibility. I think we have individuals ready to go to represent as a citizen member. So,
I thought they had given the
Yes, I'm not
responsibility of the judges to the Police Accountability Board. They switched it from the ACC.
No, the police department has the Office of Equal Rank. We have a civilian, the county executive has the judge. But we cannot do it without the judge. So that, we have our two civilians waiting
Right.
for them to get a judge. When it's more than one judge, once they open the chute for the judges and we tell police departments that they can start scheduling, I think there's gonna be this rush of scheduling these cases.
Right, it is. So I think what you're saying, what I heard was that there was a problem with some of the judges and things like that, and there was some,
These are retired judges now,
yes.
not.
No, correct. So I think that was the problem. That's not on us.
that's what I say. I heard they were waiting on us, and I was like,
No,
on us?
they're not waiting on us to do it.
Okay.
I'm just trying to be proactive, that when we have an a memorandum of understanding that was signed with the Office of Administrative Hearing, because they're still trying to actually recruit judges in the county to do this. And they've had a hard time recruiting judges.
Right.
So what they decided was that they would enter a memorandum of understanding with the Office of Administrative Hearings, at the state level, to use their judges. That memorandum of understanding has been floating around for a while. It's signed and everything, and I'm just waiting for the county to say, we'll start sending the judges. The county will select those judges.
Right.
Once they start selecting the judges and we start scheduling those hearings, I think they're gonna come at a pretty good clip.
Right, so you're
And it's gonna
saying,
be too much for two people.
so, right, so we're trying to get ahead of the rush, pretty much, by just going on ahead to do this. And so if we can get those scheduled, because we don't want to put a unfair, workload on the two selections that we have, and they may not be able to do it. So it's best to have, some other people that are, trained as well. And so we're looking at the 25th, correct?
The 25th is when the next training occurs, and
Right.
again, if you don't make that 25th class, the
It's not
next
till October.
opportunity
How long
for
is
training is
So then we would have
October.
them from July, September, and October then.
How long is this training?
The training is a 2-day training,
Okay.
but just
You
remember,
look
they
like
can't do
you're thinking it,
anything
Jay.
until they've been trained.
Mhm.
And we will be, how many months was that?
3.
3 months, where we'll have judges now, but we won't have enough civilians.
Yes, sir, I know you got something.
I just want to make, so it's clear for me that the process was not waiting on the PAB.
Correct.
I just want to
No,
make sure.
we're good.
We're good.
We're just trying to get in front of the
I
rest.
understand getting in front of it, but it sounded like there are people waiting for an administrative hearing, they're waiting on the PAB.
Yeah, no,
They're
no.
not waiting on the PAB.
No,
We
no.
made decisions a
We've
while
done our
ago.
part, yeah,
Okay.
we are complying with everything that we're supposed to do. We're just trying to be proactive and say, okay, because of the workload, we want to make sure that we're not wearing out the two people that we've chosen so far, and I think it would be great.
And I just, again, I don't want somebody to say, I've been waiting since March, and I've been waiting on
The PAB.
the
No,
PAB,
no.
and it's not
Nope,
waiting on the PAB.
Yes, sir,
Do we want to move to a closed session to discuss the candidates?
yes, sir.
I move that we move to a closed session to discuss the candidates.
Okay. Wow, Dan, that was quick. Okay. Motion made by Danny and seconded by Daniel. All in favor to move into closed session to discuss the candidates for the AHB, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so let me read our closing statement. The closing statement of today's date is, July twelfth, 2023. The time is now 8:29 p.m. The location, we have board members, in person at 9200 on Basil Court in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. We have two, board members that are virtual. So I will read the closing statement. The purpose of going into closed session is to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, and any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. So at this time, we will go into closed session at 8:30.
Did they vote?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we vote? We go into closed session? Why you do that, Mama? You shut me up.
We're pulling this up already.
Yeah. All right, we are now back in open session. The time is 9:22. The next item up on the agenda.
You have to
Oh.
say what you want to select the three.
Oh, okay, sorry. So in the closed session, we, as a board, we selected 3 candidates out of the 6, applicants, to, submit correspondence to see if they're still interested to schedule an interview. What's that? Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Mama Jo. Moving on, next is announcements on the agenda. I don't have anything. I talked about, the coffee chat that we had today.
You wanted to mention what the ACC wanted to do with the community, you said you want to make an announcement?
Yeah, so I did ask the ACC to join one of our meetings so that we can make that introduction. So I know it won't be the next meeting. A lot of them are on vacation, so sometime in August, we'll have them come sit in on one of our sessions so that we can make that introduction with them. Thank you, Denise. And Mr. Vice Chair, did you have anything, sir? No. Marva Jo? All right, that's it. Ashley, gotta ask all, do you got anything? Mrs. Bryant, Mrs. Springs, do you guys have anything?
I just want to wish everyone a happy weekend, a fruitful and warm, unrainy day weekend.
Thank you. Yes, you're right. Thank you. All right, so, anybody want to, make a motion to adjourn? Who will be my best friend?
So moved.
Oh, everybody.
You did it, Dan. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Meeting adjourned at 9:24. Thank you.